In the hypothetical 2026 scenario, the Middle East is engulfed in a high-intensity war. Strategic hubs across Iran face waves of airstrikes, answered by coordinated drone swarms and long-range missile salvos launched from deep within the desert. A conflict of this scale carries immediate global consequences. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a bottleneck for the world's oil supply, would likely destabilize energy markets and trigger a global economic contraction. To find the logic behind this 21st century weaponry, we have to look past current headlines and examine a specific moment when diplomatic trust was broken. The current regional volatility is the result of a long-term buildup, a boiling point reached after decades of strategic friction and historical grievances. Iran's identity is anchored in a 3,000-year civilizational history. It began with the Elamites and reached a peak under Cyrus the Great, whose foundations for governance and human rights were recorded on this clay cylinder. This culture survived the burning of its capital by Alexander the Great and subsequent conquests by Arab and Mongol armies. Each time, the population managed to adapt while keeping their language and identity intact. By the 20th century, the method of invasion changed. In place of marching armies, foreign powers used financial leverage and political manipulation to secure access to the region's vast natural resources. Modern Iranians often view current Western diplomatic pressure as a continuation of this cycle, a perceived threat to a civilization that has spent millennia resisting foreign erasure. In 1951, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh moved to reclaim the country's most valuable asset by nationalizing the Iranian oil industry. At the time, the British controlled these refineries and the profits they generated. Mossadegh argued that these resources were essential to funding Iranian schools, roads, and a modern, independent state. The response was Operation Ajax. In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence orchestrated a covert coup, using paid mobs and military pressure to dismantle Mossadegh's government. The coup successfully returned the Shah to power. With Western backing, he transformed from a constitutional monarch into an absolute ruler, closely aligned with American strategic interests. This interference left a permanent mark on the country's political psyche. It established a precedent that the West would actively undermine Iranian independence to protect its own economic interests. Under the Shah, Iran underwent rapid industrial modernization, but the benefits were unevenly distributed. Political dissent was met with strict repression, and a widening wealth gap fueled domestic resentment. The Shah's close ties to the United States became a focal point for this anger. To many, the state appeared to be a Western satellite rather than a sovereign power. By 1979, these pressures triggered a massive uprising. Led by Ayatollah Khomeini, the movement combined political grievances with a deep-seated Shia religious identity. The scale of the protests made the Shah's position untenable. The monarchy was abolished, and a new Islamic republic was established. The new leadership immediately broke ties with its former allies. The takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran signaled a total pivot toward an anti-Western foreign policy. The 1979 revolution codified the distrust born in 1953 into the state's core ideology, reframing the West as an existential threat to Iranian sovereignty. Cut off from global markets and Western military hardware after the revolution, Iran was forced to build a defense strategy that did not rely on foreign suppliers. This map illustrates why that shift occurred. While their conventional air combat radius remains limited, their asymmetric tools, like proxy networks and missile batteries, allow them to project power far beyond their borders. Denied modern fighter jets, Tehran invested heavily in domestic technology. They developed a vast arsenal of ballistic missiles and combat drones designed to strike targets with high precision. This asymmetric doctrine is designed for deterrence. These weapons are built to make any potential foreign intervention too costly for an opponent to sustain. The unhealed wound of the 1953 coup remains a foundational hurdle in modern diplomacy. It created a baseline of suspicion that complicates every negotiation, from nuclear agreements to regional security deals. For the current leadership, these tensions are viewed as one more chapter in a very long history of regional resistance. Over 5 millennia, this region has been repeatedly invaded and reshaped. Yet, through every shift in power, the underlying cultural and political identity of the population has persisted. Today, Iran approaches the 21st century by doubling down on the same strategy of survival it has used for centuries, adapting its methods and resisting foreign domination to ensure the continuity of its state.